All right, ladies and gentlemen, with me in the studio now is an old friend, Peter Schweizer, together with his wife, Rochelle Schweizer. He's the author of a dismaying book. I mean, I'm not criticizing the book by saying that. I mean, the book is filled with facts which dismay me, and I will tell you why. The name of the book is Disney, the Mouse Betrayed: Greed, Corruption, and Children at Risk. It's published by Regnery, and I know Al Regnery, and you know, they're a fine publisher. Now, a little backstory about me, I think. In the 1930s, when I was a boy, my father was the top trademark lawyer in the United States, and he did work for, you know, all the top people, and one of the companies he did work for was Walt Disney, and my father knew Walt Disney. He knew his brother Roy more, because Roy was sort of the business guy, and he dealt more with him. And he would come back from California when he'd be out there visiting the Disney company, and he would have drawings, you know, by Disney of Mickey Mouse and things like that. And I, being a very young boy, was thrilled by that. And Disney meant to me and to my parents and to everybody else in this country really decent, wholesome education. If the Disney name was on something, you could bet your bottom dollar that one, you would be entertained and your children would be entertained, and two, you would not have to worry about anything untoward in any shape or form going on in the entertainment. It was very family safe. And that went on for years and years and years. And of course, as it comes to everybody, Walt Disney passed away, and his company fell into other hands. And they got involved in other lines of work. I mean, back in the 30s, there were no Disney theme parks. There wasn't any Disney World or anything like that. But now they have them, and they are ostensibly oriented toward wholesome education or entertainment for children. And they do some of the classic stories. But the Schweizers, my guest today, Peter Schweizer and his wife, who were season pass holders down there in Orlando, you know, they have a family, have examined the Disney company as it is today and its practices today, and were horrified by what they found. And they have written this book, Disney, the Mouse Betrayed, and you know, they've really got the goods, because if you look toward the back of the book, there's big sections that are actual reproductions of depositions in court cases that are, you know, really disgusting and horrifying. So they got the goods on it, and they had, it's my understanding, an arrangement with the ABC program 2020 to do a big program on what's going on down there. And then suddenly, mysteriously, it got canceled. Now, the first thing I want to say, Mr. Schweitzer, is thank you for coming aboard. The second thing I want to say is that should not surprise you, because I remember when Silent Coup came out, and it had the goods on John Dean and you know, the real story of Watergate. It was scheduled to be on 60 Minutes, and then all of a sudden they pulled the plug on that, because the people who have a vested interest in bogus history saw to it that that was done. And the people who, of course, had a vested interest in Disney is Disney, and Disney owns ABC. And so it does not surprise me that all of a sudden this program went away from you. So let's try to thwart the obvious attempt to suppress this book, and tell the people about what you found. Now, first of all, what led you to make this investigation with all these startling results?
Well, we got into this book really after living in Florida for 4 years and seeing some changes that had occurred at Disney World. We got to know employees that worked at the theme parks. We quote them by name in the book.
Right. Mm-hmm.
They spoke on the record. We got to know law enforcement people that are around Disney World that have to deal with Disney security when something goes wrong at the theme park, as it often does. And we quickly saw a pattern emerge of abuse of power, and I don't use that term lightly, of obstructing investigations, of actually failing to deal with some very serious crimes that were committed even against children, attacks involving Disney employees who were pedophiles. The company was non-cooperative with law enforcement agencies down in Orlando, and those individuals were really outraged at what they found and went on the record with us. And that was really the first sense that we had that this company is not what the image seems to suggest.
Yeah, in other words, Disney is not in Kansas anymore, Dorothy, right? I mean,
it's not.
Okay. Well, I guess we're all familiar with the fact that Disney is behind some motion pictures that some devout Christians, not necessarily just Roman Catholics, but other devout Christians, have found very upsetting in the past. Motion pictures that seem to go out of their way to almost have as their purpose the denigration of religion and religious values. We've seen that. There's one thing in here that fascinates me. You say that when the current regime at Disney took over, there used to be on the cards of all the people having to do with the Disney Corporation, or their business cards, something about devoted to family entertainment. So then they took that off.
Yeah.
Well, at least it's a bit of truth in advertising, because they certainly are not anymore, are they?
Yeah, no, I mean, it was a symbolic act. They had a phrase on their business cards before Michael Eisner was chairman that said, offering the finest in family entertainment, and one of the first things they did was remove that saying. And it was a symbolic act, but it's been followed up by real changes. We found out, for example, to our surprise, that in 1989, Disney became partners with a couple of cable companies in a venture called Viewer's Choice, which is the largest pay-per-view service in the country, and among the films that it offers are softcore pornography. And by that I don't mean, R-rated films with nudity. I mean exclusive films produced for this Disney-owned service by porn stars like Marilyn Chambers and Becky LeBeau. We found in the field of music that Disney started a company in 1989 called Hollywood Records, that has produced some pretty outrageous lyrics. I mean, I couldn't even say them on your program.
Yeah, no, the FCC, I'd be out of business.
Yeah, that's right. Last year they had a band that called Human Waste Project that sings a song about intercourse with the Virgin Mary. They had another band that sings a song about intercourse with demons. They have songs that, with titles like Pretty Suicide, that describes this young girl that's committed suicide and how the most beautiful picture she's ever taken is this picture after her suicide. So this is really cutting-edge stuff.
Yeah, well, not only that, but, we do have a problem. The teen years are troubling years. Adolescence, historically, is a very troubling time. And there is the tragedy of teen suicide. We know that, and everybody's trying to fight it and so forth, and to exploit it like that and to encourage it, I think, is absolutely unconscionable. Absolutely unconscionable. The bottom line seems to be here, and you tell me if I'm wrong, and I draw this from your book, Disney, The Mouse Betrayed, that it's money über alles. If it will generate money, there is nothing Disney will not stoop to.
Yeah, I think that's right. And, some people are inclined to say, well, they're in business and that's what they should do. And I think that's fair enough. But the problem is the public display that the Disney company, especially Michael Eisner, puts forth is that this company is different. Michael Eisner gave a speech this last April to the American Society of Newspaper Editors where he said entertainment companies have a responsibility to not produce things that debase the culture, to not produce things that are unethical or unflattering or embarrassing to people. But very clearly that is what they're doing. And they are also, frankly, putting children at risk in their theme parks. I mean, we found evidence of everything from Emmy Award-winning animators to some of the costume characters that had criminal records or were picked up for molesting children. And we were told on the record by law enforcement officials down there that in a whole host of ways, Disney security thwarts efforts to deal with this very serious pedophile problem at Disney.
Okay, now we're going to have to take a quick break for some commercials. When we come back, I want to go into some cases back here. You've got these depositions. You know, this is not something you've written. This is something that are actual court records that are just appalling. We'll get into that as, right after these words. Sir.
It's okay to stay alone.
Talk show host G. Gordon Liddy.
Yeah, that's fine. Okay.
106.7 WJFK's Don and Mike.
So you're very naked.
Okay.
What are your measurements?
34D,
Oh, great.
24,
Thank you.
and
Thank you.
34.
Well, actually, you know, we always do that because a lot of times people, you know, doing what you're doing, you have a schedule. You got to get from here to someplace else.
Yeah.
And, you know, we don't want to interrupt that. But if you do have the time, we'd like to spend more time on it, because I think it's very important.
Well, thank you. Appreciate
Very
that.
important.
How's your son? You have a son that's in the Special Forces, right?
SEAL. He's
Right,
a SEAL.
right.
You know, he's fine. He's where is he now? He's down at something called Group 2, which is meaningless to anybody but them. I don't know what it means, and I don't know what he's doing. But I know that when he works out, when he's doing pull-ups, for example, he puts a belt on and puts 70 pounds of weights on his belt. Is doing pull-ups.
70 pounds of weight.
70 pounds, because that brings him up to 270 pounds. And I said, why do you do that? He said, well, you don't do the pull-ups just for the sake of doing the pull-ups. He said, you do that so that when you're in these situations that SEALs get themselves into, they can, you know, lever their bodies up into doing all kinds of things. And he said, when I'm rigged out with all the stuff that I carry, he said, I weigh 270 pounds. So my arms have to be able to quickly move 270 pounds. So that's why I work out at 270 pounds.
Oh, gosh.
It's interesting.
That's incredible. He's got to be in great shape, that's for sure.
Oh, yeah, he's in just phenomenal shape. And he's got arms on like that. And I once looked at him, you know, from the side, like from here to here. It's like a side of beef, just this massive muscle.
And then it thins out, and then probably the legs.
Yeah, he's got no waist.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then powerful legs again. Yeah, he loves what he does.
Does he?
Oh yeah, just you know, he said, hell, I'd pay them to do what I get to do. I said, oh, what's that? He said, you know, I can't tell you that. It's funny, you know, sometimes when he's away, he's deployed someplace, and we'll get a phone call, and I'll say, Jim, you know, what time is it where you are? He said, you know, he said, then you'll know where I am.
Yeah. You're using your bureau training.
Yeah, try to figure out where he is. I can't outsmart him. No, he's too smart for his old man. Yeah.
So he's gonna. I guess he's probably gonna stay until he retires. Huh?
Oh yeah, he's a career. He's a lieutenant commander. As a matter of fact, he recently completed getting his master's degree from the SICE program, the Strategic Advanced thing over there at Johns Hopkins. Yeah,
very good program.
So he's totally career oriented. Just absolutely loves the Navy, specifically, you know, in general, loves the SEALs in particular, and just loves what he's doing. So every now and again, somebody finds the perfect job for them. You know, and they have a happy life. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. It's pretty rare these days.
I finally found the perfect job for me, and I was 61 when I found it. And that's this one. I get to have a good time here.
Yeah.
And they pay me. They actually pay me double the minimum wage, which I think is remarkable.
It's pretty rare these days. People are able to match up their profession with exactly what they want to do. So you just got to be.
Yeah. Well, I didn't do very well as a burglar, so I figured I got to do something else. Oh boy. And we're back here at Radio Free DC, the G. Gordon Liddy Show. That was a Spitfire, Supermarine Spitfire going by, making a pass. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm pleased to let you know that we are going to be coming up against the end of the hour here, but Mr. Schweizer has very graciously consented to stay through the turn of the hour break, and we will have more then about this book. At one time, Disney put safety first, and yet now they have an injury rate that is twice that of the industry. How did that come about?
Yeah, that was a very surprising thing that we discovered. We interview on the record current Disney World employees who work the rides, and they describe to us how there has been this effort in recent years to squeeze every bit of profit out of Disney World, even to the extent of taking some risks. Two things have really happened. First of all,
did your stuff fall apart the way it's falling apart around here? You hear that? They're with the east wall, I think.
Yeah, they told us two things, basically. First of all, that there's now a quota system, in a sense, that requires the workers to get a certain number of people through the rides every hour. For example, at Space Mountain, they have to get 2,000 people through per hour. If they don't, they'll get reprimanded. So there's this pressure to push people along, to send the ride along, even though people may not be seated or perfectly secured in the rides.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. The second thing that's happening that they told us on the record is the number of people working the rides has declined because they're trying to cut costs to boost the short-term profits. So, for example, at Space Mountain, they used to have 7 people working the ride. Now, oftentimes, there will be 5. And the people working the rides are less well trained. The equipment for Space Mountain has basically been the same operation since it was started, but beginning 3 years ago, they cut back training, safety training, from 40 hours for new employees down to 24. So they're really getting roughly half the training. And the result is, as you said, according to Disney's own internal documents, that their injury accident rate is twice the industry average, and the internal surveys that Disney does of its own employees show that 57% of employees that work the rides at Disney World say that the company is putting profit above the safety of its guests.
Boy. Oh, well, do they have an insurance company, and is the insurance company aware of this?
Well, it's very interesting. When something bad happens at Disney World, if an accident occurs or if a crime happens, unlike anywhere else in the United States, if you dial 911, you're not put in touch with a dispatcher who's a civil servant and who puts you in touch with law enforcement. When you call 911 at Disney World, you end up talking to a Disney employee who puts you in touch with Disney Security. Disney Security will come, and they use this as a filtering mechanism to, in a sense, deter people from, contacting lawyers. They try to get people to sign papers if an accident has occurred. If a crime has been committed, we found cases where children have been molested, where Disney World Security tried to deter the parents from calling the police. And this is all in the eyes of protecting their public image and protecting the idea that bad things don't happen at Disney World. And we found homicides occurred at Disney World.
Oh, my. How do the law enforcement people feel? Did you talk to any law enforcement people down there? I mean, this must be terribly frustrating for them.
It's very frustrating. We interviewed about half a dozen detectives with the Orange County Sheriff's Office, and we also interviewed a guy named Doug Raymond, who is one of the top pedophile experts in the country. He lectures at the FBI Academy. He's got a citation from the FBI director on his wall. And he heads up something called the Central Florida Child Exploitation Task Force that was set up by 19 law enforcement agencies, including the FBI and local law enforcement. And that task force was designed to deal with pedophiles who might be wandering the parks. And he's enormously frustrated because this task force was going to send in undercover agents, it was going to train security people, it was going to do a lot of valuable things. They got cooperation from SeaWorld, from Universal Studios, from the mom and pop water parks. There's only one theme park, Gordon, that would not cooperate with this task force. Guess which one it was?
Disney.
That's right. Disney is the only one that would not cooperate. So it's enormously frustrating because there are crimes that are occurring that they never hear about, and there are crimes that occur that they try to investigate, and oftentimes Disney Security will obstruct that investigation.
Well, there's another thing that occurs to me, and I learned this from my own time spent in prison. Criminals oftentimes have criminal specialties, and they hang out together in prison, and they compare notes, and you can often get a good education in your criminal specialty from your fellow prisoners. Well, the sex offenders hang with the sex offenders because nobody wants anything to do with them. They're despised. But you know, the word gets around, so I will bet you that's what's happening. This is speculation on my part, that the word is out in the pedophile community, to use the way we speak these days, that hang out down there in Disney World because you're not going to have a problem there, whereas if you go to SeaWorld or something like that, the cops are liable to nail you.
Yeah, that's an excellent point, and it shows your FBI training, because that's exactly what we found out. We found that out with pedophiles. We also found that out with peeping toms. Disney World has a very...
the classic voyeurs.
Yeah, the classic voyeurs who are Disney employees. We actually reprint some of their criminal records in the book. They're long repeat offenders. What happens in this case is employees will peep in changing rooms, looking at guests changing their clothes. They'll look into hotel rooms and, you know, see what's going on in there.
That's right. They have all these Disney hotels then.
That's right. They have a huge number of hotels. And what's interesting is we found in internal Disney documents that we got at the courthouse that when an employee is caught peeping on a guest, they don't call the police, but even more than that, they oftentimes don't even fire the person. And they don't fire the person. There was one individual we found that was identified 3 separate times watching mostly young girls changing and trying on clothes in one of the Disney World changing rooms. 3 separate times. It was reported to Disney security. All these people, you know, signed a statement of what they saw, and he was given a written reprimand and kept his job. They just don't take crime seriously.
I mean, but how do they do this? I mean, do they have peepholes built into the? That these people use? I mean, did they go in there with a brace and bit and drill a hole in the bathroom? I mean, how does this work?
Yeah, there is a lot of that going on. Some of the ceilings are removable, so they'll sort of peep through the cracks in the ceiling, but there are a lot of peepholes. And we found a case, for example, where one Disney employee was videotaping some of the dancers who were changing in Cinderella's castle. He took the videotape and showed it to coworkers, you know, at bachelor parties and things. What happened was the Disney found out about it because some of the employees, you know, told them about it. They waited 6 months before they did anything. And this guy, of course, the whole time was filming and watching these girls. When they finally did decide to nab him, they didn't call the police. They ran their own little sting operation. So they catch this guy in the act. He's now committed a felony because he's videotaped these people without their knowledge. He's been peeping on them. Disney didn't contact the police.
Oh, boy.
He'd committed a felony, and the only way the police found out was, you know, somebody in Disney security sort of blabbed their mouth one day.
Well, you know, I don't know whether it's in Florida law, but in the laws of some states, there is a crime called misprision of a felony, and that would constitute that. So it looks like Disney's even committing crimes itself that way. Well, we've got a lot more to go. Listen to this. There's a weird message that Disney sends when employees are caught peeping or filming their co-workers, some of the stuff that I want to get into here, we'll have to be careful as we read it because it's actual testimony in court cases about some really disgusting stuff that goes on amongst the employees down there. My good friend Peter Schweizer will return after the turn of the hour. Remember, we're talking about his new book, Disney, The Mouse Betrayed, Greed, Corruption, and Children at Risk. Peter Schweizer, it is a Regnery book.
This Sunday on Redskins Radio 106.7 WJFK.
To find the monster board today, you know the address.
Do you like South Carolina?
Yeah, I enjoy it very much. And it is I, G. Gordon, and this is Radio Free DC, the G. Gordon Liddy Show. I am in mid-interview, thanks to his courtesy. He is holding over for another segment with Mr. Peter Schweizer, together with his wife, Rochelle Schweizer. He is the author of really, in a sense, appalling book, because it is called Disney, The Mouse Betrayed, Greed, Corruption, and Children at Risk. It's published by Regnery, which is a first-rate publishing company. I happen to know Mr. Regnery and the people who work over there, and they are very careful about the books that they publish, and they make sure that they are accurate. And this one has been vetted 6 ways from Sunday. It's very, very good. And what it is about is the terrible transformation of what we all once knew, at least those of us of a certain age, as the Walt Disney Company, which provided, clean, really good family entertainment where you didn't have to worry and everything, to a profits-driven outfit that has double the rates of injury in the industry in its theme parks, which refuses to cooperate with the police around Orlando, which retains on its payroll known pedophiles and voyeurs and things like that. They have sex crimes and everything else going on down there. Really a terrible situation, and we were right in the midst of this when, of course, we had to take a break for the commercials and everything. And when I was coming back, John, you'd sent Cameron out to retrieve me, as he frequently does, and I just realized that although they fired these people and everything like that very, very infrequently down there at Disney World, isn't that where we found Cameron? Didn't he come from Disney World, John?
Yeah.
I was afraid of that. Have you looked into Cameron's record?
I will do it now.
Please, geez, we don't want to be hoisting our own petard here. Fortunately, we don't have any children working here, but I did notice, John, that there's been a hole drilled in the ladies' room, and that's the sort of thing that's going on down there at Disney World. And I was wondering, who around here could do a thing like that? I'm not saying it was Cameron, but maybe we ought to set up one of those cameras and see if we can find out who's doing this. Okay, getting back to Disney, The Mouse Betrayed, Mr. Schweizer. One of the things I noticed that in the back of the book, to make the point that this is the real thing, you don't just quote from, you have actual reproductions of the actual documents, depositions and things like that in court cases having to do with these activities. Now, one of the things that I found, and I want to warn everybody now, some of this is particularly disgusting. I'm going to try to use euphemistic language so that, one, we don't get in trouble with the law enforcement or what have you, and second, we do get the message out, though. There was this case where they were apparently harassing some young employee or doing something like that, where they handcuffed him and then stripped him naked and bent him over backwards, and they were using rubber gloves, and they were coming up with, they were doing anal inspections or something. I thought, what in the world was that?
Yeah, that was really one of the other horror stories that we discovered. Down in Disney World, in addition to having their own large security force, they have their own fire department. They have 4 firehouses at Disney World property, and they're Disney employees. And we found in court depositions that 8 firefighters that have worked there have testified under oath that they were basically sexually assaulted by fellow workers. When they would join the firehouse, a group of employees would grab them, pin them to the ground, strip them of their clothes, insert objects in their behind, pens, a variety of other objects, and this was a repeated form of harassment that took place over the course of more than 10 years.
Did any of them use a cigar?
Not that I know of. Not that I know of.
So far, only in the Oval Office do we have that.
Yeah, I mean, these were very serious and aggressive attacks, and what's interesting is Disney in 1995 had a member of the Orlando Police Department come in to investigate, to conduct his own investigation, because they'd received complaints about these forms of harassment. He did, and he found in his report that yes, there had been these attacks that had taken place. Disney took that report and then did nothing. Nobody was disciplined, nobody was fired, there were no repercussions whatsoever. The only real repercussions for Disney are that 3 firefighters have filed lawsuits against Disney, and Disney, which is a company that really very firmly defends its legal position, has settled 2 of those cases out of court because the evidence was pretty overwhelming. The other thing about these attacks that are so amazing is they didn't happen in a dark corner somewhere in the firehouse. Indeed, as is mentioned in the testimony, they would announce it over the public address system that they were going to attack somebody.
Oh, my. Like that. For those of you in the line to be attacked sexually, just be patient. This is a holiday, after all, and we do have an excessive crowd, but we will get to your little behind in plenty of time for you to have a real good time in the sexual harassment theme, the deal here. This is wild stuff. Holy smoke. And as I said, ladies and gentlemen, the proof is in the pudding. He's got the actual copies of these documents. That's where I learned of it. I mean, in reading his book, I was looking at this stuff. I said, "Holy smoke!" And there it is. He's got the goods here. And the name of the book is Disney: The Mouse Betrayed, Greed, Corruption, and Children at Risk. Peter Schweizer. Now, the Disney company must know about these things going on. Did you confine your research into this just to Disney World on this coast rather than Disneyland, I think it is, on the other coast? Yeah,
we primarily did Disney World because Disney World has a special status. In 1967, the Florida legislature basically set up a system whereby Disney World is its own local government. So they have an authority that doesn't apply to Disneyland, but the section on Disney World is about a third of the book, and then the rest of the book is about the Disney company. For example, we have a chapter on animation, and there's been this controversy about, have they been putting, strange themes into animation. So we went and actually just talked to the animators who did the films, and so there's a general section, of course, on animation as well.
Animation, yeah. Well, one of the things that I have found somewhat disturbing is that they will take classic stories. Now, you take the story. The correct name of the book by Victor Hugo is Notre Dame de Paris, and people persist in calling it, the Hunchback of Notre Dame. And then they'll take a classic story like that, and they'll just ruin it.
Yeah.
And then they'll take, the Pocahontas legend, and any resemblance to anything that actually happened is purely coincidental and what have you. And that's messing with history. That bothers me, but that isn't necessarily corruption in the sense that you're exposing here. We just got J. Keith Knopf, who is one of our frequent faxers, says, Gordon, the Clinton administration, a Mickey Mouse presidency, presenting 101 Damnations, starring Goofy Al Gore, Dopey Bill Clinton, Fairy Godmother Barney Frank, Grumpy Janet Reno, and the evil stepmother Hillary Clinton. Oh, jeez. Oh, my, you might want to make an appendix in your book. Put that in here. Tell me about this, these animators. I know that is a particular skill, and you just don't find animators all over the place. So they really sort of give these guys a pass, don't they?
Yeah, they do. We interviewed the animators that were, the head of story and the co-writers of the script for Hunchback and for Lion King and for Mulan and all the recent great hits. And it was really amazing how candid and open they were with us. They told us that basically today at Disney, there is a political correctness that applies to the films, that we were told directly that there's a feminist twist to all these stories, that the heroines, if you look at the heroines, the problems in their life are caused by the men in their life, whether it's their father or a boyfriend that they might have. We were told that there are gender sex politics that are put in these films intended for young kids. We were even told by animators on the record that there are gay characters now in Disney animation.
Oh, yeah?
Those are not my words in my description, that's their description. And
holy smoke.
These are films intended for 5-year-olds.
Which one of the dwarfs is a homosexual?
Well, it's actually in The Lion King. I don't know if you saw The Lion King.
No, I don't watch these things.
There are two characters that are actually now an animated cartoon, Timon and Pumbaa, which are this little meek rat and the his friend.
I can understand that because in Great Britain, the slang term for a homosexual, which comes from the British military, is a poofter. So that doesn't surprise me. Oh my! This book, Disney: The Mouse Betrayed, it's got so much stuff in it, and it's just appalling what they're doing to our culture and to the culture and to the children. What is the answer to this? I know that what is it? Was it the World Baptist Conference that condemned Disney for these actions and recommended to its adherents that they not patronize Disney enterprises.
Yeah, there have been
right on that?
Yeah, there have been some boycott efforts. You know, we think that people just need to kind of know what Disney is doing and then make up their own decisions.
Yeah, I mean, who would knowingly take their child to Disney World, knowing that it's full of pedophiles and this stuff is going on, and that Disney's is allowing it to happen? Tell me about this special status that they have. In other words, they couldn't stonewall law enforcement if they did not enjoy this special status.
Yeah, well, there are two things. First, in Florida, unless it is a capital crime, you are not breaking the law if you don't report the violation of a crime. And so that's one protection that they have. But in 1967, the Florida legislature allowed them to set up something called Reedy Creek, which is in a sense a local governing authority. That means that everything from zoning, if Disney World wanted to build a nuclear power plant on its property, there's nothing the state of Florida could do to restrict them. But in a more practical way, what it means is that law enforcement, Reedy Creek, basically has the authority to set up a local police department. And the way they've set up the local police department is instead of actually hiring law enforcement officers who work for the local government, they simply contract it out to Disney Security. So you have a private company that is providing, in a sense, policing services for the area.
Would I be far wrong if I would suggest to the good citizens of Florida that they could go a long way toward cleaning up the situation down there at Disney World if the legislature would revoke that charter and make them subject to law enforcement the way all the other political subdivisions in the state of Florida are?
I think that's an excellent suggestion. That's what really gives them the power to run their own 911 system. If you're the victim of crime at Universal Studios and you dial 911,
you get the police.
You'll get the police. Disney World, you get Disney Security. And of course, they're there to protect their corporate interests, not the people that are visiting the park.
That is a remarkable disclosure. All right, I've just been reminded by my heartless producer, Mr. Pop, that you have other appointments. This isn't the other show you're going to be on, the only show you're going to be on. Ladies and gentlemen, my thanks to Peter Schweizer for staying over this long. This is just some of the appalling things that are going on in the Disney Corporation in general and in Disney World in particular. If you want to know, I would say that if you've got children, and they're all being conditioned, by advertising and everything. I want to go to Disney World, I want to go to Disney World. Before you undertake to take a child to Disney World, you would be irresponsible as a parent if you did not first read Disney, The Mouse Betrayed, Greed, Corruption, and Children at Risk by Peter and Rochelle Schweizer, published by Regnery. So, you won an award, didn't you? You're an award-winning journalist.
Yeah, we did win. Actually, Brian Ross, the ABC guy, when he was at NBC, we won. The team that I was part of won the Overseas Award for Investigative Journalism.
That's great.
Yeah, and Brian Ross is a great journalist. I mean, he's one of these bulldog journalists, and they asked him to resign over the story, and he refused.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, they had signed us to a contract. They had agreed, ABC News had signed an exclusive contract with us. They'd sent us letters assuring us that, they weren't going to spike the story. This was all back in June. And, then Brian went down there and he spent like 2.5 weeks down there with a film crew, and you know how expensive that is, shooting it. And then at the 11th hour and 45th minute, they pulled the plug.
Yeah, well, that's exactly what they did with Silent Coup.
Is it?
Yeah, exactly what they did. And it was, Mike Wallace went down and examined all the evidence, said, wow, this is dynamite stuff, this is great stuff, and everything's going to be a great program. And then, I don't know, like a week before it was supposed to air, pulled the plug. Yeah, and that's...
Did you ever have any sense of what happened? What specifically happened?
I mean, when they realized that it went against the conventional wisdom, which was wrong. This book really explained what Watergate was all about. I mean, even I hadn't known. And it showed all the instances of the perjury by John Dean to put people in jail. And I mean, it's one thing to testify against your associates. It's another thing to perjure yourself when you're doing it. It's really a bad thing. But they had such a big investment, the Nixon haters did, and this other stuff, that they just pulled the plug. Pulled the plug on. and they've been trying to suppress it ever since. And you will find that people will continue to try to suppress your book. I mean, it won't be just that one instance.
Right.
Disney company's very powerful, and they will try to do it.
We have only been, I mean, I probably have done already, a lot of radio interviews, and there are more planned. I think there's only one scheduled with an ABC station. I mean, I just think...
And that guy will probably end up fired. He'll be working for us, so this is CBS, so we don't have a problem.
Yeah. I figured there probably wouldn't be a problem even if it were ABC. You're pretty independent-minded, which is good. But
that's true. I have it by contract. I have control of the content of my, so long as I stay within the law. I mean, we can't use mouth words that will endanger the license of the station.
Right.
But other than that, I mean, the content I control here.
That's important to have. No question about it.
Okay.